Hi everyone, it's Sean from What Up and welcome back to another video, and this will be my Season 2, Episode 7 Easter egg video for the Wheel of Time. Yeah, we're going to walk through the episode and we're going to pick out all those little interesting tidbits for book fans and a couple things for just show fans as well. You don't have to have read the books to enjoy these videos. These are just interesting little facts and tidbits about the episode we're going to talk about. This does include one particular theory that isn't my own. I've been telling you folks for weeks that I'm doing my best to stay off social media. I'm not going on Reddit. I'm not reading any of the websites or watching any other creators' videos on purpose because I want all my thoughts to be my own. But if a bunch of people send me the same message, I kind of have to look at it. It appears that Dragonmount came out with a particular theory about this episode and one character that is really very interesting. I don't know if it's true or not. There's been no proof to it, but it is an interesting theory, and full credit goes to Dragonmount for it. And we'll talk about that as we hit that point in the video, after the spoiler warning, of course. Now, if you're new to the channel, we cover Wheel of Time show news, and right now we're doing reviews, Easter egg videos, and breakdowns for every single episode of Season 2, but we're also still covering news, rumors, and leaks for Season 2 and Season 3. Now, Season 3 is coming up fast because they are still filming right now, but will likely be done before the end of the year. And I have a bunch of leaks stockpiled for you folks that I'm going to share in between seasons to sort of ease the longing, so to speak. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do so because you don't want to miss all of that stuff coming from What Up in the coming months. Now, all of that being said, before we get into the Easter egg video, I do have to give a spoiler warning, and this is a hefty one because it's my Easter egg videos, and I always give a hefty spoiler warning. So, spoiler warning. In today's video, we're referencing elements from Season 1 and Season 2 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. So if you haven't watched the entire first season and the first 7 episodes of Season 2, and have not read the entire book series, we're talking The Eye of the World all the way up to including A Memory of Light by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Be forewarned, I'm going to ruin plot points and character arcs from both of those mediums. That being said, let's get on to those Easter eggs. Alright, so we're talking Easter eggs here, but I do want to reiterate, spoiler warning, I just gave it. I'm still getting the odd upset message from people that said I spoiled things from the book series for them. Well, there's a reason to give spoiler warnings, folks. And there's a reason I say the whole book series is because I may unintentionally talk about something as I ramble on about the Easter eggs, because that's what I do, that might spoil something from later on. So, if I unintentionally spoil something for you, I apologize, but you've been warned, and there are a ton of people out there like me who really enjoy spoilers, regardless if they've read the book series or not, so they enjoy these videos. So, just saying. Alright, that out of the way, the very first Easter egg I want to talk about is between Moiraine and Siuan in the opening. Now, there's a couple of different things here. They're both wearing blue because Siuan was raised from the Blue Aja. They both were members of the Blue Aja, and Siuan was blue prior to becoming Amyrlin. If you notice that Lyanna Sedai's ring in the series is also blue, it's because the Keeper of the Chronicles is usually raised from the same Aja as the Amyrlin. Not always, but usually. She's also blue. So, this is pre-Amyrlin days, of course. It's 20 years ago. It's in the past. But I thought it was a nice little touch showcasing the fact that she was blue beforehand. And if you notice her dresses, Moraine's dresses have a much finer cut than Siuan's because Moiraine came from Cairhien. She was a noblewoman. She has a lot of money. She's very wealthy. She's probably used to finer clothes. And Siuan, not so much. She comes from a very poor part of Tyr. She lives among the fingers of the dragon, and her people made their living from the ocean, which is kind of showcased in her choice of jewelry. So her earring here is an iridescent kind of see-through, either mermaid or fishtail, and that's in direct reference to that. And she actually says that in the in this particular scene about her fisherwoman's hut. I thought it was kind of neat either way, but I love these little subtle differences between them, especially in the past. All right, next Easter egg I want to talk about is Rand. Now, this is before Rand sees the Amyrlin, and there's a couple of things here, including some really cool fan service that we'll talk about in just a second. And no, not that kind of fan service, although that does happen in this episode too. And then I want to talk about Rand's coat. Now, Rand gets a new coat before he sees the Amyrlin, much like he does in the book series. It's a much finer cut and quality than what he's used to. It's better than what he's wearing. But what's interesting is what's on the back when they showcase it as he walks away. Above the rising sun of Cairhien are a bunch of birds. They almost look like they could be herons, maybe swallows, maybe hawks. There's a couple of them in there that certainly look like herons to me. They're a bird anyway, and I think this is sort of a little call out to either the hawk of Shinar or perhaps something similar to that because that's where Rand was trained. And then below the rising sun of Cairhien are fish, and there's a ton of fish there, and I think that's in reference to the Amyrlin. So this could be a little play on the meeting between Rand and the Amyrlin here, whereas Rand has picked up some warder/borderlander training from Lan just before going in. I think that's what it is. I could be reading too much into it, but either way, it's a gorgeous coat, and there's a ton of little tiny details like that in this episode that I really, really love. All right, so next up is Lan. Like I said, there's some fan service here, and this is one of the more famous lines from earlier on in the book series, is there's one rule to being a man, whatever comes, face it on your feet. And he says this to Rand here, and this is really important for this episode because Rand does nothing like that at all in this episode, and we'll talk about that in a bit when we get to that part. But it was just a nice little call out to one of the more famous lines in the early book series, and it's something that you see everywhere. A lot of fan-made merchandise features it, although no official merchandise, oddly enough, because there's not much official merchandise, kind of a sticking point with me. But I happen to have some things made by fans up here on the mantle that have that inscription on it. Pretty cool nonetheless. Next thing is this. This is a Heron Dips the Wing. Now, it's one of those things, we'll talk about it more in my breakdown video, but there's been a whole lot of talk of Rand not being prepared for his fight with Turok, if it even happens. We think it does. We've seen some video of them squaring off, but basically in the Great Hunt, Rand really does become a Blade Master because he fights High Lord Turok and wins. And that's after practicing with Lan and practicing on his own and doing a bunch of stuff over the course of months. Now, they referenced that in an earlier episode this season with him learning sword forms from the gentleman in the sanatorium, Errol, but it's one of those things that wasn't really shown on screen, and a lot of fans were kind of confused about it, but it was actually shown here. What's really neat about this is this means that we're actually getting sword forms on screen, and we may see them, and we may see them described, which is pretty interesting. We haven't seen many of them so far. If you watch the fight scenes real close, it seems like some of the movements are practiced with swords, but a lot of them happened in the dark, so it's really hard to tell. I'm more excited for the fight scenes we may see in the final episode, episode 8, where we actually get to see, hopefully, some sword forms out in the open. But either way, this was a really nice little neat call out to that. Lan acting surprised that he's learned them and proud, which is exactly how he felt in the books. Even though he didn't really show that, he just happened to spend a little bit more time with Rand than the other two boys because he, quote-unquote, had a sword. So there's that. All right. Then there's this. This is the next little tidbit, Cat crosses the courtyard. If you haven't read the books, this is another one of those lines that really is ingrained into the fandom. Cat crosses the courtyard was one of the moments when Rand really embraced his cocky, self-sure nature when he went to go see the Amyrlin, and he just kind of snapped into it when Lan mentioned it to him. So this is sort of a call out, a little Easter egg to the book fans about that. If you hadn't read the books, you probably don't know what it is or what it means. It just means that it's a very relaxed, cocky way of walking, and you get to see him kind of saunter in to see the Amyrlin after that, which is, in my opinion, a nice little bit of fan service. All right, we're shifting gears now to food. Yes, I said food. We have a couple of food-related Easter eggs here. Now, in the world of Wheel of Time, they've referenced a bunch of different food, everything from white asparagus to persimmons, now pears, and in the background, you've seen apples, you've seen all kinds of other fruits and vegetables, but you haven't seen peaches. That's totally on purpose. So it's not really an Easter egg in the fact that we're seeing peaches. It's the fact that so far we've seen a ton of different fruits and vegetables, but not peaches. That's because peaches in Randland are deadly poisonous. Do you know why? Well, it's because Robert Jordan hated peaches, and that's why he wrote it that way. That's pretty much it. Kind of a neat little tidbit there either way. And when I saw the pears, it's the first thing I immediately thought of because they do zone in on the food here and there, and it's something we haven't seen yet, and I doubt we'll see, maybe except in a slight reference to the fact that they're poisonous. Now, continuing with the food trend, we have this, donuts. Yes, Randland has donuts. These may not be from Tim's, or if you're from the States, Krispy Kreme, I guess. I don't know States donuts, but in Canada, it's Tim's all the way. Donuts are a very North American type thing. When people think of North America, especially the USA, they automatically will think of donuts. It's just one of those things. Homer. Anyway, the Seanchan are basically modeled after a slightly American culture. And I think this is a direct reference to that. They have donuts, obviously, because they're showing them here, and it's right after or right before, I can't really remember which, there's mention of the Fallmen basically just adopting the Seanchan culture like they haven't been invaded a couple of months ago. So these are from Seanchan. Now, The Seanchan have a slight, and we're talking very, very slight Texan accent in the show, and that's really showcased when you hear Alwyn Serath's voice speak. She does it incredibly well. I can't say enough great things about Jessica Boone. She's a fantastic actress, and especially a fantastic voice actress. So that very slight Texan accent is a reference to the book series. Now, in the book series, they had a long, lilting drawl, kind of a slurring way of speech, and Robert Jordan had described it in interviews as being a Texan accent. So the Seanchan sort of have some American vibes. They have a Texan accent. They have calf, which is coffee, which is known to come from the Americas as well, from South America, in other areas. I mean, other areas of the world have it too, but coffee's drank a lot, especially in North America right now. So the Seanchan have coffee and donuts just like Americans do, and they have that slight Texan accent. So it's just a little play on that. I thought it was very, very neat. All right, now we're getting into this. This isn't really an Easter egg, but something I needed to mention. The face that Zoe Robins made as Nynaeve when Elaine basically told her, sit down, be quiet, we're going to do it my way because your way sucks, was perfect. Zoe Robins is killing it as Nynaeve, and while this, like I said, this isn't an Easter egg, this is too good not to talk about, and I'll talk about it more in my breakdown, obviously, but the way she acts physically as Nynaeve is just, in my opinion, perfect. For those of you who've read the books, I can't wait to see if they adopt the storyline with Val and Luca and they cram Nynaeve and Elaine in a wagon together and watch them go at it. It would be amazing to see the two of them fighting like this, especially Zoe, and the way she's really bringing Nynaeve to life. Either way, I kind of had to mention it. Sort of a palate cleanser after the food. Now we're getting into this. This is the theory that Tom from Dragonmount dropped during his rewatch earlier this week. Like I said, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched any other content creators' videos. I haven't been reading any of the articles. I've been doing my best to stay off everything unless something officially posted from the cast or the crew or the showrunner, like the Q&A that I did a video on last week, because I don't want my opinions influenced. But a bunch of you saw this and you immediately thought of me, which I thought was very touching. Thank you so much. And you sent me it. So after a few messages, I had to read some of them, and it was pretty interesting theory. All right, so what's the theory? The theory is that Maxim is a Darkfriend. I know, a lot of you out there saying, hold up, how is that possible? Well, Tom from Dragonmount picked this up during his rewatch, and it's something I didn't notice, and I don't know if anyone else did either, so full credit goes to Dragonmount for this and Tom. But essentially, in the book series, when a Darkfriend or a member of the Black Aja needs to showcase the fact that they are serving the Great Lord to someone else, they place their thumb in between their first two fingers like that. Now, it only happened, I think, in my memory, maybe once or twice. It's a very rare thing in the book series to be mentioned. It certainly made it into canon, of course, and you can look it up online as part of the multitude of fan websites that track all of that stuff. But in the book series, I think it was only mentioned a couple of different times. But you can see Maxim here fidgeting with his hands, and that's some people saying maybe he's just fidgeting, but you can clearly see his thumb between his first two fingers. And then the next picture, you can see it better here. Now, I don't know who he's showing that he's a Darkfriend to. Is it Thomas? Is it Verin? Is it someone else that's around? We really don't know. But I think this theory has a lot of credence to it because, and hear me out here, folks, as bonkers and off the wall as it is, if Maxim was a Darkfriend, it would make for very, very interesting storylines much later on, especially when Alanna bonds Rand, because it happened in the book series, and she did it for, we assume, what would be the right reasons, to either control him or do different things. She just did it on a whim. It was kind of a horrible thing she did, but at that point, it was never used for any other reason than for her to point out where he's at. He's here, he's there, he's jumping around. She couldn't control him, she couldn't compel him, she couldn't do all the normal things you could do with the bond. So if Maxim is a Darkfriend, it'll probably call into question whether Alanna is, or Ivan is, and there'll be a whole other subtext to her bonding Rand later on. If that happens, they may not adopt that storyline. This may be completely off the wall speculation on my part. But if he is, it could make for some very interesting TV, I think. Anyway, so this is where we're going to stop here, and I want to say, let me know in the comments down below what you folks think. Is there some credence to this theory? You heard about it? I know some of you have, because I get messages from some of you. But if you haven't, what do you think? How do you think this would work if he's a Darkfriend? This would certainly go a long way, because there are a bunch of Darkfriends in the series that some are more obvious than others, and there are always little hints to who they are throughout the series, and this could be our little hint that Maxim is in the show. I don't know. Let me know down below in the comments what you folks think. All right, so next up we have the Suldum and Rena and Egwene scene, where Egwene basically showcases that she's maybe not the most powerful channeler in 1,000 years, but she's close. Nynaeve gets that ticket, of course. But during this scene, we see a couple of different things, and the thing I want to focus on is the interaction between this Suldum and Rena. Now, when she asks what her Damane's name is, Rena says that she's let her keep her name, and her name is Egwene. Now, when that happens, this Suldum's cheek jumps immediately and she clenches her fist. She's super not happy about this. It's sort of a blink and you miss it type moment. But when it does happen, it's an immediate call out to the rifts between the Suldum and the books. They all had different ways and ideas of training their Damane, and some thought they should be friends, some thought they should be treated as pets, some thought they should be treated as objects, some thought they should be tortured mercilessly. And they all had different ideas on how it should be done. And I think that's what this little tiny tidbit showcased, was cracks in that so-called perfectly well-oiled machine of the Seanchan. And I think they'll play on this as we go on in the series a bit more, as they certainly did in the books. But I really like that little call out to that. I thought it was very neat. Then we have this. A couple of things here. We have Egwene's hairstyle emulating that of her Suldum, and she's wearing the iron bit. So this, I think, is a direct call out to the fact that in the last episode she was broken. Now, Egwene is not totally broken. We're going to see that in just a second. But she is, for all intents and purposes, broken at this point. She did give in. The water pitcher was no longer a weapon. She was able to pour the water. It was a horrific scene throughout episode 6 that played really well on screen. But I think her voluntarily wearing the iron bit and having her hair in the same hairstyle as her Suldum definitely signs that she is broken, because it's something that only Damane who are broken have worn in public, I think. Now, that being said, she's not totally broken. We'll get to that in just a second here, after we talk a bit about Aviendha's prickly honor. So, in the book series, Aviendha has been known to have incredibly prickly honor, and it's one of the things that she's made fun of a fair bit by everybody, the wise ones, all kinds of different people, because even for a maiden, she seemed to take her honor a little too far. And in this scene, she blames herself for the death of one of her spear sisters. And it was one of those storylines within this episode that I think wasn't totally well done, and I mentioned it during my review, and I'll mention it again in the breakdown, but it was too rushed. I thought they should have spent a little more time with Perrin, Aviendha, Bane, and Chiad, but again, there's only so much time in the episode. Where do you put it? But in this scene, it's a huge call to her prickly honor, because she's blaming herself for her spear sister's death, when maybe she really shouldn't, and she gets her sisters to beat the ever-loving crap out of her to meet her toe. Now, that's kind of referenced later on by Perrin when he asks what is going on, and she sort of explains it a little bit, a good call-out to non-book readers. But this scene here, as soon as I saw it, I was like, that is 100% Aviendha, and a call-out to her prickly nature from the book series. I loved it. I thought it was really cool. So we don't know what they're doing with Mat. This is one of the most jumbled storylines in the series so far, I think, is Mat's storyline of this season. I don't know what they're doing with him. I don't know what the end game is. I don't know what's going on here. I do know that he is in Falm, where he's supposed to be at this point, so I don't know if they're going to course correct a bit in episode 8, and if he'll take more in line with what went on in the book series, or they're going to go in a completely different direction, as they've done with this character so far this season. But they've done a lot of really great foreshadowing with Mat the whole season, a lot of it having to do with him having one eye, which is a thing in the books. He has to give up half the light of the world to save the other half. And this, I think, is no exception to that foreshadowing. This is what appears to be a red door frame with him hanging inside it. Now, I know, it's a mirror. It's in the room he's in, and he's seeing visions of his past lives through the tea that Ashamael gave him. But the way it's framed, especially here in this shot, it looks almost as if you're looking through a door and you're seeing Mat hanging there. Now, in Rhuidean, after Mat went through the red door frame, he basically came out hung from the tree and, for all intents and purposes, dead. That's because he never set a price for what he asked for in the realm of the Elfin and the Aefen. Now, I don't know if this is a total call out to that, but I think it is, considering the fact that they're referencing other prophecies with Matt, and this is likely a call out to that. So maybe, just maybe, we will see it later on. I don't know if the tea will totally take place of them. I don't think it does, and I don't believe it will. I really hope we get to see the foxes and the snakes. So there's that. I remember earlier when I said that Rand was told by Lan, there's one rule, face it on your feet. Well, he ignored that rule pretty much the rest of the episode, and I totally think that was on purpose, because he's going to Foam, he's going to go fight Shamael, he's going to go rescue his friends, he's going to do all these big bad things as the Dragon Reborn, but he's had no training, he doesn't really believe in himself, and he has no confidence. Not really. I mean, he's better than he was, but he's totally not ready at all. Yes, he's learned some sword forms, and he is likely at this point as skilled with the sword as he was in the book series, if the timelines are taken into account, how much time he had to spend learning the sword with Errol versus how much time he had learning the sword with Lan, which is only a couple of months in both instances. So I think he's likely the same level there, but his confidence just isn't there. He's not ready for this battle. So him spending pretty much the rest of the episode on his knees and not on his feet is a direct call out to the fact that he is not ready to face it on his feet. He's not prepared in any way, shape, or form. He needs to be saved. He needs to be prodded and poked and pushed in the right direction. And he needs a lot of support from a lot of people to be able to do what he's doing. Either way, I thought it was very neat that basically the entire episode Rand spent it on his knees after he's told not to. All right, so remember I said Egwene was broken? Well, she's totally not broken. Not completely, at least anyway. In the book series, she went through a ton of stuff, and she was in a lot of situations like this. Being a demone was just the very start of the horrific things that Egwene went through that molded her into the person at the end of the series that we all know and love. Now, that being said, she's braiding her hair here. So she did have her hair up in the style of her Suldam in public. She was wearing the iron bit in public. She was acting as if though she was broken in public, which is what people would expect. In that way, she can assert just a little bit of dominance in private, which she does very masterfully throughout the book series with every instance she's ever been in when she was either a captive or was beholden to someone else. Here, there's one thing that's very in your face. She tells the Suldam she's going to kill her, but there's something that's not so in your face, and it's the fact that she took down the Suldam's hairstyle and she's putting her hair back into a solid Two Rivers braid, sort of an act of defiance and an act that she still is Egwene, that she still is herself, and she still can make some choices. I thought it was a really neat call out to that. Now, we're talking a bit about Birthings and his mom, Moiraine's sister. Birthings is a Darkfriend. We found that out this episode. For those of us who read the books, we already knew. For those of you who didn't read the books, I think a lot of you guessed early because he was creepy as shit. He really was. He was not cool at all. He just did not pass the vibe check, in my opinion. So there was something off about him. In this episode, we learned he's a Darkfriend, and his mother finds out as well that he's plotting with Liandrin to kill Moiraine. So she takes action and gets him locked up. Now, when they're speaking here, and I'm not 100% if this is intentional or not, but I have to think it is because it is almost too perfect. His mother is in the light. She's in the hallway. There's torches lighting her face. She's very brightly lit, and she walks in the light. She is not a Darkfriend at all, and she's the one who captured her son, and she's very broken up and very upset about it. Birthings himself, who is a Darkfriend, is in a dark cell. He's shrouded in darkness as he's talking and begging his mother not to tell the queen. That's got to be on purpose. Dark versus light. I thought it was a little too on point for it not to be on purpose, and I thought it was very well done. Either way, a nice little call out to the fact that Birthings is a Darkfriend and serves a great lord, and his mother is not. Really cool nonetheless. All right, this here, I wanted to talk just a bit about this. So, remember to give full book spoiler warnings? Well, there's a reason for that, and this is part of the reason here. In the book series, we find out fairly late in the series that Verin is a Darkfriend. But much earlier, there is a ton of evidence for it. On rereads, after you know that fact, you can watch for things, and you see a bunch of little things that lead you to believe it much, much earlier. I think this may be one of those things. Now, what she tells Lyanna is not technically a lie in the fact that she is needed elsewhere. The Amyrlin and everyone else needs her to help. However, she said, I will take the boy's shield. And then she says, that's an order. So this is a huge play on words. I don't know if it goes one way or the other. Now, I honestly think it's not a lie in any way, shape, or form. That is just a very clever use of words, because in the very next scene, Moiraine says, very clever use of words, sister. She believes that she told no lies. She believes that the way she phrased it is, that's an order, like, from me. Like, you're going to do this, that's an order from me. Because it's totally true. She can do that. But what if she was ordered by someone else to help release Rand? I don't know, maybe Lanfear? We've seen that cloaked, shrouded figure earlier on in the episode that kind of knocked Matt out. That totally would not have been something that Lanfear would have done, that Ashamael would have done. It would have been someone who couldn't channel the one power. They would have just walked up to them and knocked their head in. Was that Thomas or Water doing this? I don't know, but we're getting a lot of really subtle hints that perhaps Verin's a Darkfriend, and this is one of them here, and I thought it was glorious. I really loved it. I can't wait to start interacting with the fandom and talking about this stuff again, because I think this has to have people talking. I believe, anyway. And this, of course, is where Moiraine says to her, very clever use of words. Like, it's the whole scene is just a little too perfect for it not to be set up to not go the way that it's a hint that Verin is a Darkfriend. But anyone who hasn't read the book series or doesn't know, there's some question there, I think, which is really very neat. All right. Not so much an Easter egg, but this is one of the things I wanted to draw attention to. When Rand is channeling here at the end, he's drawing power, the one power, and you can see him pulling fire from the torch. This happened a number of different times throughout the series where a channeler is using the one power and they're pulling elements from the earth, from the air, from the water, from fire that's around them. I just think it's a really, really neat thing. And if this is why, or if this is what we got for waiting 2 years between seasons, I'm cool with waiting 2 years again. As long as they keep filming, they can hold the seasons all they want. Wait 2 years in between them to get the special effects and the channeling and stuff done properly like it was done this season. Super cool. So we're down to the last couple of Easter eggs, and the first one I want to talk about is this. This is Moiraine opening the Waygate. Now, in Season 1, we saw that Waygates need to have the one power used on them to open it up. However, in deleted material, we also saw that a trefoil leaf and Aviendha leaf can be used to open them. It's one of those things that in the book series, it was a carved leaf that was on the Waygate you pulled off and put in a different spot, and it would open up, and that's what you get. So anybody could access the ways. In Season 1, when Pat and Fane went through the ways, during the actual series, when you watched it, it didn't really showcase how he did that, but in some of the deleted scenes and different things like that, he was shown with a trefoil leaf coming out of the ways. So it's still done that way. However, in most of the rest of the series, channeling is the way to do it. And I don't believe the Aes Sedai or anyone else know that you can use a trefoil leaf to get through the Waygate. It's one of those things, and I think it might become a plot point in Season 3 for the Battle of the Two Rivers. I think that may be a very big thing then, and I think that's why they're doing this. Either way, kind of a little call out to the book series here. When she channels to open the Waygate, she has that trefoil leaf behind her, the Aviendha leaf. Really very neat. The next thing I want to talk about is this. Siuan compels Moiraine. This is something that is not done very often, and when it is done, it's not really talked about because it's kind of taboo. They don't like it. It's not cool in any way, shape, or form. But Moiraine took an oath, sworn to the Amyrlin, which happened in the book series a number of different times, just not in the same way here. Moiraine never swore that oath. Other Aes Sedai did, especially to other Amyrlins, and I won't get into too much of those that are not Siuan. But when Siuan tells her to close the Waygate, she actually commands her, and then the one power forces her to do it because she swore the oath in the oath rod. Now, this should show Siuan that she wasn't stilled and she didn't lie to her. However, I don't think that's the case. She's still bound by this oath, so she's likely still bound by the other oaths. Maybe this is Siuan's way of testing it, or maybe Siuan is just fed up with Moiraine at this point and is kind of pushing her out. Either way, it's a call out to the oaths in the books, and once they're on you, they're unbreakable until you can get a hold of the oath rod to pull them off. And then, of course, you get this really cool shot, I had to show it, of her closing the Waygate with a big trefoil leaf behind her she's channeling. Either way, really very neat. All right, folks, so those are the Easter eggs I found. I am sure there are more. In fact, I think I found a couple since I've recorded my earlier parts of the video. But if you folks see some that I haven't mentioned, please leave them in comments down below. At the end of the season, I'll pin them all in one comment, and then I'll go through and I'm going to make a video about all the Easter eggs that I missed that you folks found, and I'll try to credit everybody that finds them. If multiple people find them, I'll credit the first person I see. It doesn't mean that I'm not trying to give credit to everyone, if that makes any sense. Now, we are just a couple of days away from the season finale. So tomorrow, Wednesday, expect my episode 7 breakdown. That'll come out tomorrow night. And I'm going to do a preview video for episode 8. We have some promotional material that showcases some things from episode 8 already. And we will likely get a scene from it tomorrow. Every Wednesday, we've gotten something from the Wheel of Time. So we'll do another video on that tomorrow night. So expect 2 videos from me tomorrow. Because Thursday night, when the finale drops, I want to be fresh. And I want to be able to do my review for you folks right away. Now, I will warn you, when Season 1 happened, and the finale happened for Season 1, I was quick, like I am now, quick with all my reviews. They usually come out immediately, within a couple of hours of the episode. My Episode 8 review was days. I did my Easter egg video first, I did my breakdown first, I didn't do my review. I did it last, because I was not as happy with it as I would have liked. In fact, I think it was one of the weakest episodes of the season. I don't believe that's going to be the case, and regardless of how I think or feel about episode 8, my review is going to drop immediately following the episode tomorrow night. I also want to remind you folks, I do not receive screeners. I don't receive any advanced information other than the leaks I get, obviously, but I receive nothing from Amazon whatsoever. So when I watch this thing, when I watch episode 8, I'm watching it live with you folks. I'm watching it at the same time. My review will come out a couple of hours later. It will be fresh in my thoughts and in my mind from just watching it. And that will come out Thursday evening. I'm pretty excited. What are your predictions for the final episode? Will we get to see the big sky battle? Will we get to see the Heroes of the Horn? That one we know. We're going to see them. We've already seen them in promotional material. But what will we see? Will Matt blow the horn? I think he's going to. He's got to, right? Of course he has to. Matt gets the dagger. Is he going to stab Rand? Is he going to be the one to give him the unhealable wound? There is a ton of questions here. I can't wait to answer them all. This has been a blast anyway. I'm kind of sad the season is ending in a couple of days, but I am having a whole lot of fun. I hope you folks are too. So thank you so very much for sticking with me here to the very end. Here's to many more.